Just say it, man. Don't make me ask 20 questions.
What is the point?
Get to the point.
Just say it already!
Welcome to the Podcram. Here's a few minutes from an episode titled The Caesar Guide to Taking Over the World from Ben Wilson's podcast, How to Take Over the World, which you should consider subscribing to if you enjoy the following clip.
Caesar gathers his troops. Pompey gathers some of his troops, but Pompey really delays. And it's interesting, when most people meet uncertainty, their first reaction is to vacillate, to do nothing, to worry, to fret, to say, okay, what's going to happen here? And that is what Pompey is doing. So Caesar repeatedly requests a face-to-face meeting with him. He feels that if they can just talk things through, they'll be able to figure out a diplomatic solution to this whole crisis. But Pompey never comes. And so, Caesar is busy working to come to a diplomatic resolution, and Pompey is not. And at the same time, Caesar is readying his forces, gathering legions, building strength, and Pompey really isn't doing anything. He's not doing much to prepare his army. And so the great statesman Cicero wrote to a friend from Rome. He says, "You ask what Pompey means to do. I do not think he knows himself. Certainly none of us know. It is all panic and blunder. We are uncertain whether he will make a stand or leave Italy." When people are faced with uncertainty, their default reaction is to wait and see, to prepare for neither scenario. But Caesar does the opposite. He prepares for both. He pursues a diplomatic solution at the same time that he's preparing his forces in case there is a military conflict. And, he's just the opposite of Pompey. No one could say that they did not know where Caesar stood or what he wanted or what he planned to do. So in the end, a diplomatic resolution can't be found, and Caesar marches into Italy. And so Caesar invades Italy with that settled will, that focus, that intense purpose that defined him. And as always, this is something that we see with Genghis Khan, with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and now Caesar. People really respond to clear purpose and a clear vision. And so a lot of cities just start opening up their gates to Caesar, start joining him. They're like, all right, here's a man with a plan. We know what he's trying to do. And so that builds momentum, and a lot of people join him. Now, Caesar basically fights the civil war with one arm tied behind his back. He is unbelievably forgiving. One of his great hallmarks is his clemency. He is always forgiving his enemies and allowing them to join him, or even to leave and go rejoin the enemy, the forces fighting him. And on the one hand, this is a strategic move. Cicero wrote, "Caesar's treacherous clemency enchants the men." Okay, so if you are a populist, you know that you are likely dead if Pompey wins. There's going to be bloody reprisals and mass killings, and that stiffens your resolve, right? Like, I'm going to do anything to make sure Pompey doesn't win, because if he does, it's over for me. But if you're an optimist and Caesar is going around forgiving everyone, well, maybe I'm not going to fight so hard for the optimists. It wouldn't be so bad if Caesar takes over. I could be convinced. You're saying if I give up now, I can just come back to Rome and be forgiven and not participate in the civil war at all? Like, I don't have to pick a side. Okay, that sounds like a pretty interesting deal. And so his clemency really is, as Cicero says, enchanting many leading citizens. But in other ways, this strategy really is fighting with one arm tied behind his back. He has opportunities to seize their resources, kill their men, wipe out the optimists, and he doesn't take it. One curious thing Caesar does that hits home this approach is what he does with the letters of every defeated army. Here's how Froude describes what happens after the Battle of Pharsalus when he defeats Pompey. Quote, "In Pompey's own tent was found his secret correspondence, implicating persons, perhaps, whom Caesar had never suspected, revealing the mysteries of the past 3 years. Curiosity and even prudence might have tempted him to look into it. But his only wish was that the past should be forgotten. He burnt the whole mass of papers unread."
Thanks for listening to this installment of The Podcram. I hope it contains something useful for you. If you enjoy these selections and are curious about the curator's own thoughts, you can check out my other podcast, Psychic Lube, where I share concise concepts meant to grease the intellectual gears and help get your creative juices flowing. Each episode is an ongoing collaborative project that welcomes listeners to expand or rebut its points by email or comment, the most interesting of which get incorporated through periodic re-recordings. As always, if you're intrigued by today's content, I encourage you to go listen to the full podcast in its original form directly from its creators so that their sponsors keep paying them to make stuff for us and nobody feels compelled to sue me for copyright infringement. Now, get off your phone and go do smart stuff. Have a productive day.